Hey, what's up? Well, I'm making a video and I would like to kind of rant about something. You see this basket right here? I like to start out with this. I've had this since, well, I want to say since I was a baby. And I'm very upset about something that I found, every year around Easter, or in this case I feel like when you have an early Easter like this, you kind of get shortchanged, I feel like, out of a holiday in the springtime because, most of March is still winter. And it can still be very cold for at least a month into spring. And I feel like it kind of sucks when you have Easter in late March because by the time you actually get to spring, or I mean April, which is the first month that actually feels like spring, it's like you don't really have any more holidays. Of course there's Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Father's Day, the 4th of July, but let's face it, those aren't big holidays. So I never have liked it when you have Easter in March like that, and like the last couple of days of March, because that's only 5 months since Halloween, basically. Yeah, and 7 months till the next. And it's like you have all the big holidays concentrated in the cooler part of the year, and temperature-wise, and then you get to the actual springtime, and there's nothing left, it's just tropical theme and summer, So that's why I didn't buy an Easter tablecloth. That's the other reason I didn't care more about getting an Easter tablecloth, because this year Easter is only 2 weeks after St. Patrick's Day. And the other thing is it's a weird thing how the lunar calendar this year is going to be more like my 7th grade year when we had that full moon on Christmas Eve, a rare full moon like the movies. But this year was like the day after Christmas or something. And it's already gibbous once again. But next year we'll have a school calendar where the Friday the 13th will remind me of my 7th grade year because, it's 28 years later. So it's just depressing all around. And the reason why it's roughly every 3 years that Easter is close to what it was 3 years ago is because the moon, I want to say it's like about 12 1/3 or something like that, or 12 2/3. It's about a third of a lunar cycle, when it's 1 year later. So that's why the moon is never the same exactly 1 year later, but it's close about 3 years later, or something like that. And so as a result, Easter is a similar date. So yeah, but yeah, and that makes it very difficult, for the calendar, because in 28 years, you don't have Easter on the same day. That's what makes the calendar different. What I'd like to talk about in this video is something different. I want to talk about about the Easter baskets, how you have these pre-made baskets, and the ones that have a doll in them, the only one that I've ever been tempted to buy, it has a bunch of other stuff that I don't like. The candy is never good, and the other stuff is something I have no use for. And then, of course, I have no use whatsoever for the boys' baskets. So those pre-made Easter baskets are not good. I'd rather make my own, and if I have to have a doll in it, I'll just stick a doll that I already have as the centerpiece instead of a chocolate bunny that I'll never eat. So anyway, I want to talk about in this video why I had considered getting a Winston Doll, but never actually bought one. And Winston Torres, well, yeah, it's like that with everything. I see the doll and then I research the cartoon or whatever it's from, not the other way around. I never just, like, I don't just sit around watching cartoons and say, I'd like to have a doll of the main protagonist. And unfortunately, with most shows, since I'm always obsessed with the antagonist, those are a lot harder to come by. The antagonist usually in most cartoons is not a main character. And so, I'd considered getting a Winston Torres doll. When I thought I'd never get Superman, I thought he'd never come in. And I thought to myself, I wonder if Winston Torres from Karma's World would be a good or better boyfriend for her. And then I quickly reconsidered. And the reason I did was, well, a number of things. For one thing, I have no use for that stupid show, and I think their names are all stupid on that show. The main characters have the dumbest names. And, it's basically, it's a show, about black, it's like a black show for kids, basically. That's kind of the trend these days. It's like, instead of having white antagonists and white token boys, no, everything's going black. And, I'm just so glad I got to grow up in the 80s when it wasn't that way yet. But it's also another consequence of more people like me just saying no to kids. Just not having any kids. And so yeah, like, I thought about getting a Winston Torres for quite a while. I think I saw him in the store and I had considered him, but what made me reconsider, other than I really, I just don't like that at all. The same thing I don't like about Rugrats in Paris. Which really should have stopped me from even seeing the third movie whatsoever. I should have just quit watching the Rugrats the minute they introduced Kimmy and her mom. More importantly, her mom, because Kimmy in and of herself wasn't that bad of a character, but it's her mom. And, really and truly, what I had always assumed was that Chuckie's dad was gay. Just like a lot of the people that are fans of the show, he was gay. That's what I would have assumed about Chaz. I always thought in my mind that he was gay and that Dee Dee had been a surrogate because Chuckie looked so much like Dee Dee. And that explanation would have made sense to me in 97 when Chuckie had no mom. Was it? Yeah, I think it was 98 when they had the episode about Chuckie's mom or something like that. But that's what I would have assumed. I would have thought Chaz was gay. Why else would he wear purple glasses and buy them for his son and let his son have long hair? So yeah, that's what I would have concluded. And with that voice, of course, it's not a manly voice at all. So, but what I don't like, of course, about, having a Winston Torres doll, I just really don't like this trend toward, making the token boy black instead of white, and it's like, I just don't like it whatsoever. But, I don't even like the main character being black, that's enough for me just not watch the whole series, but I don't really care. If they want to have a series like that, that's fine. I'm just not going to watch it. But, so a Winston Torres doll. The other thing, because if he had been white, there was a good chance that I would have probably, I might either have one or it would have been a lot harder to resist getting one. And so what I discovered about him, the main thing that made me reconsider and not want to have one, is that he is, well, at first I thought, as I stated before, Kathy is 8 3/4 inches. So the ideal male doll was a doll like the Superman doll, who is about 9.5 to 9 3/4, so slightly taller. And hopefully white, but with darker features. And so when Superman didn't come in, I had considered Winston Torres, because he's more little boyish. I mean, that's about the only thing that I think is special about him, is because there are just so few dolls that represent middle childhood, the age of the kids playing with them, ages 6 through 12, roughly. There's just so few dolls that are made to look like a child about 9 or 10. And, certainly not in the 1/6 scale. It's like they're either a toddler or a teen, not much in between. And I've said that before because it rhymes. But the thing that I didn't like about the Winston Torres is that upon further investigation, in addition to being black and me not caring about that silly show, the thing that made me not want one is because I found that he is not a 1/6 doll at all. He would not go together well with the collection that I have and the kind of dolls that I like. I mean, he's just not on scale. Because, and what I mean by that, a 1/6 doll, that basically means that an adult male doll is about 12 inches or below, like 11.5 to 12 inches, roughly. 5'9" to 6'0". Okay, and so that is a 1/6 doll, about a Ken doll. Well, you have other scales, which boy toys are usually in smaller scales. You have, of course, the 1/8 scale. That's when he's about 9 inches. 1/9 scale, he's about 8 inches, and so on. The higher the number, the smaller the scale. A 1/12 scale, he'd be about 6 inches. And so the heads are smaller, or bigger or smaller depending on the scale. But the thing about the Karma's World dolls is that they clearly are not Barbie dolls. The girls have an even bigger head than the boys, or the one boy, Winston. And, the way I know that they're not on a 1/6 scale is because, well, mainly the head. That's how you know. And so I saw somebody that had measured him in their eBay listing. And he isn't 9.5 inches. He's about 10 inches. So that would be about 5 feet even. But the head is the problem. The head is so big that you can clearly tell he's more of a 1/5. And what that means is like it would be like if a Ken doll was a little over 14 inches and a Barbie was right at about 14 inches. And like a toddler would be 6 to 8 inches, and a baby would be 4 to 6 inches, something like that. And so it's a slightly bigger scale, and the heads are the main thing that's bigger. And so if he's on a 1/5 scale and he's 10 inches, then he's made to be about 50 inches or about 4'2". And the girls are even smaller. So, basically they should be more like a Stacy doll, were they a 1/6 scale doll. They would only be about 7.5 inches were they on Barbie scale. But they're not. Clearly they're not. And so yeah, I mean, if he'd been white and his head would have been smaller, I probably would have bought him. But he's a 1/5 doll, and I have no interest in the show, and just no interest in that. And the other thing is, I mean, even if I didn't have all these negative feelings, I kept saying I'd make a video about this, but I don't want to come across as racist. Since the summer, something they're doing with the Rugrats series that I really don't approve. I don't like, the wedding of Cynthia to this black Ken doll. What I don't like even more is what they chose to name him, you know? I mean, I already have enough negative associations with that name, you know, just because of well, the words of my parents and all that, and how they'll never call me anything but what I was born as, what's on my birth certificate. Like, I've never been allowed to have a nickname other than Sissy, which just means sister. Um, so I have no use for that series, no use for Karma's Worlds or the new Rugrats series, and no use for Winston Doll.